8-year-old Michael stood outside the restaurant window every single day at the same time, staring at the food display. Restaurant owner Tony had noticed something unusual about this kid, until that one day changed everything. After hearing this story, your perspective on life will never be the same. Comment below which country you're watching from. And if you enjoy these heartwarming stories, don't forget to subscribe. On a quiet street in downtown Chicago, there was a small family restaurant called Tony's Place. 45-year-old Tony Marcelli had been running this restaurant for over 20 years. He opened every morning with the first light and worked until late evening. The restaurant wasn't big, just 8 tables, old but clean chairs, and a few family photos on the walls. But Tony's food was the best in the neighborhood. Tony had lived in this area his whole life. His father was also a restaurant owner, and Tony learned the trade from him. He wasn't married, had no children. He lived alone, and the restaurant was both his home and his life. He didn't do this job for money, but because he loved it. He knew his customers personally and always asked about their day. Everyone in the neighborhood simply called him Tony. One October morning, he had opened his restaurant and set up his display as usual. It was 8:30 a.m. That's when he first noticed him. A small boy was standing in front of the restaurant's glass window, looking at the food displayed inside. The child was thin. His clothes were old but clean. He carried a small school backpack. Tony stepped outside. "Hello there, buddy," he said with a warm smile. "What's your name?" The child looked at him shyly. "Michael," he said quietly. "Are you going to school, Michael?" "Yes, but—" The child stopped, as if he wanted to say something but was hesitant. "But what?" Tony knelt down to be at the same level as the child. "Nothing's wrong," Michael said. "I should go. I'll be late." And he ran away. Next day, Michael came again at the same time. This time he stayed a bit longer in front of the window. Tony was watching him from inside. The child's eyes were gleaming with hunger, but he wasn't saying anything. On the third day, Tony couldn't stand it anymore. He went outside. "Michael, are you hungry?" The child shook his head. "No, I'm just looking." But Tony had heard the child's stomach rumbling. "Come inside. Let me prepare something for you." "I don't have money," Michael said shamefully. "Money? Who asked for money?" Tony laughed. "Come on, you'll be my guest." That day, Michael ate one of the most delicious meals of his life. Tony gave him pancakes, scrambled eggs, and orange juice. The child ate with such appetite that Tony's heart tightened. "Michael, do you have a mom and dad at home?" "I have a dad," the child said while continuing to eat. My mom died." Tony's heart sank. "What does your dad do for work?" "I don't know," Michael said, shrugging his shoulders. "He's always working. He leaves early in the morning, comes back late at night. Sometimes I don't see him for days." Days passed, and Michael continued coming every morning. Now he wasn't just looking through the window, he was coming inside and having breakfast with Tony. Tony was preparing different meals for the child, making sure he went to school with a full stomach. "Tony," Michael said one day, "why are you so nice to me?" Tony thought about it. "You know, Michael, when I was your age, I rarely saw my father too. He worked a lot as well. The neighbors looked after me. Maybe now I'm in those neighbors' place." Michael smiled. This was the first time Tony had seen him smile. Weeks passed. Tony started making special meals for Michael. The child's favorite pancakes, eggs, and chocolate chip cookies. Michael would tell him about his school days and show him his grades. "I got 100 on my math test," he said excitedly one day. "Good job, buddy." Tony kissed him on the forehead. "We need to celebrate this achievement." That day, he specially made Michael's favorite chocolate cake. Of course, the neighborhood had noticed the situation. Some people admired Tony, but others interfered with his business. "Tony," said Frank, the neighboring restaurant owner, "if you keep giving free food to this kid, others will come too. Then you'll lose customers." "Frank," Tony said calmly, "that child is hungry. I'm just helping as much as I can. But there's a limit to this. After all, you have to make a living too." He was right. Tony's income wasn't that high. Rent, electricity, supply costs. But he still wouldn't give up. One evening, while closing the restaurant, he was counting the cash register. That day he had only made $200. His rent was $1,500. The electricity bill would be due next month. He had a total of $3,000 in hand. What if other kids come too, he thought. What if Michael's father finds out about this and gets angry? But the next morning, when he saw Michael, all his doubts disappeared. The happiness on the child's face was worth everything to him. At the beginning of December, things got even harder. Winter had arrived and the number of customers decreased. Tony's electricity bill was overdue, water bills had accumulated, but he never reduced the meals he gave to Michael. Maybe I could give slightly smaller portions, he thought one day. But when he saw Michael's thin face, he did the opposite. He increased the portions. One Friday, Michael was quieter than usual. "What's wrong, buddy? You're very quiet today." "Tony," Michael said with tears in his eyes. "My dad came home last night. He was very angry. He said, 'Where do you go every morning? The neighbors see you at the restaurant.'" Tony's heart raced. "So, what did you tell him?" "I couldn't tell him. I was scared he'd get angry. But my dad is very different. He wasn't like this before." That night, Tony couldn't sleep. What if Michael's father comes? What if he forbids the child? What if he gets angry with me? But in the morning, Michael came again. This time there was a slight bruise on his face. "Michael, what's this?" "It's nothing. I fell." But Tony, with enough experience, could tell this wasn't from falling. The child had been hit. In mid-December, everything changed. That Monday morning, Michael came earlier than usual. It was only 7:30 a.m. The restaurant hadn't opened yet. Tony saw him waiting at the door. The child was crying. "Michael, what happened, buddy?" "Tony," he said, sobbing, "my dad found out everything. He was very angry that I came here. He said I can never come again." Tony knelt down and hugged the child. "Don't worry. We'll find a solution." "No," Michael said, shaking his head. "My dad is very angry. He said he's coming to see you too, to settle accounts with you." Just then, a black BMW stopped in front of the restaurant. A tall man in a business suit got out. His face was stern, his eyes gleaming with anger. "That's my dad," Michael whispered. The man walked towards the restaurant with big steps. Tony stood up, putting Michael behind him. "Are you Tony?" the man said in a harsh voice. "Yes, I'm Tony Marcelli. I'm David Anderson, this child's father. I need to talk to you." Tony tried to stay calm despite his heart racing. "Of course, please come inside." They went inside. David Anderson, with his business suit, expensive watch, and confident demeanor, looked very different in the restaurant's modest atmosphere. "Michael, wait outside," his father said. The child went out fearfully. "Mr. Marcelli," David said directly, "my son has been bothering you for months. I learned about this situation and want to put an end to it immediately." Tony nodded. "Mr. Anderson, your son isn't bothering me at all. Quite the opposite." "No," David interrupted. "I don't want my son to be dependent on others. He needs to learn to stand on his own feet. But the child is hungry." "Hungry?" David looked surprised. "What do you mean hungry? I give him money." "What money?" Tony was surprised. "The child never told me you gave him money." David's facial expression changed, as if he had understood something. "Michael," he called outside, "come inside." The child came in fearfully. "Michael, what do you do with the money I give you?" The child lowered his head. "What money, Dad? I give you $50 every week for food." "No, Dad, you never gave me any money." David looked shocked, as if he was looking at his child's face properly for the first time. "Michael, what do you eat at home?" "There's no food at home, Dad. You're always working. No one does grocery shopping." At that moment, David's face turned white. "Mr. Marcelli," David said with a tremor in his voice, was my son really hungry?" Tony nodded. "Yes, Mr. Anderson, the child was very thin. He used to pass by the window every morning and look. I couldn't stand it." David collapsed into a chair. He put his head in his hands. "What have I done?" he murmured. "What kind of father have I become?" Michael approached his father. "Dad, you're not a bad father. You just work a lot." "No, Michael," David said with tears in his eyes. "I'm a terrible father. I let you go hungry and didn't even notice." He turned to Tony. "I apologize to you. What you did is a great kindness. I came here angry, but I was wrong." "It's okay, Mr. Anderson. What matters is the child's well-being." "Mr. Marcelli," David said, standing up, "I want to pay for all the meals you gave Michael. In fact, whatever debts this restaurant has, I'll pay them all. "No, Mr. Anderson, I don't want money. I did it voluntarily anyway. Please accept it. This is very important to me." David took out his business card from his wallet. When Tony took the business card, he was shocked. "David Anderson, CEO, Anderson Construction and Real Estate Empire. You're the owner of Anderson Empire?" "Yes," David said shamefully. "That's why I work all the time. I was so focused on making money that I didn't even notice my son was going hungry." Tony's hands and feet went numb. The man in front of him was one of Chicago's richest businessmen, and he had been giving free meals to this man's son for months. "Michael," David said, turning to his son, "apologize to Tony for secretly eating food from him." "No, Dad," Tony interrupted. "The child doesn't need to apologize. He didn't do anything wrong." David stood up. "Mr. Marcelli, you've treated my son as well as his father. Even better. I don't know how to repay this." "I don't want money, Mr. Anderson. All I want is for Michael to be happy." "Then let's do something else," David said. "Let's replace this restaurant with a bigger one. Let's open a new place for you." "No, thank you. I love this place." David thought. "Well then, at least let us renovate this restaurant. Let's redecorate it, change your equipment." A week later, Tony's restaurant had become unrecognizable. New tables, new chairs, new kitchen equipment, new sign. Even the restaurant's name had changed. Tony and Michael's Place. David hadn't just renovated the restaurant. He had paid all of Tony's debts. On top of that, he had given him $50,000 in capital. "Mr. Anderson, this is too much," Tony had said. "No," David had said, "this is nothing. You saved my son's life." On opening day, the neighborhood came to the restaurant with great curiosity. Everywhere was packed. David also came with his son Michael. "Tony," Michael said, "now my dad has breakfast with me too. He goes to work later." "That's great news, buddy." David approached Tony. "Mr. Marcelli, I have one more proposal for you." "What is it, Mr. Anderson?" "Register yourself as Michael's guardian at school. I don't have time to go to parent-teacher conferences, and Michael is very attached to you." Tony's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Anderson, this is a great trust. You deserve it." Months passed. The restaurant had become much more successful than before. Tony had hired 3 employees. Dozens of customers came every day. But most importantly, Michael was very happy. Now he spent time with both his father and Tony. His grades had improved. He had made friends. One day, David came to the restaurant alone. "Mr. Marcelli, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Mr. Anderson. I want to make a confession to you. My childhood was very difficult. My father was very strict. He never showed me love. I was doing the same thing to Michael without realizing it." Tony was listening. "You taught me something beyond just giving food. You reminded me what love means." "Mr. Anderson, no, let me finish. You didn't know anything about my family. But you saw a child crying from hunger and helped, without expecting anything in return." David paused, then continued. "You know, I have a lot of money, but there are things I can never buy, like the big heart you have." A year later, Tony's restaurant had become not just an eating place, but almost a meeting point for the neighborhood. David had opened a small grocery store across from the restaurant for Tony. This way people could both eat and do grocery shopping. Michael was now 10 years old, the most successful student in his class. Every day after school, he would come to the restaurant and help Tony. "Tony," he said one day, "when I grow up, I want to be a restaurant owner like you." "Why, buddy?" "Because you taught me the most beautiful thing, helping people." David had rearranged his work. Now he spent weekends with Michael, showing him that he cared. He also came to the restaurant frequently. "Mr. Marcelli," he said one day, "do you notice? Thanks to this restaurant, not only Michael but I have changed too." "How have you changed, Mr. Anderson?" "Now I treat my employees better. I remember that they also have families, that their children are waiting for them. I use the empathy you taught me in my work too." Today, 3 years later, Tony's restaurant is one of Chicago's most beloved places. Not just for its food, but for its atmosphere. Because this place isn't just a restaurant, it has become a family home. Michael is now 12 years old, still coming every day. He's no longer just a customer, but like a little partner. Tony has started the adoption process, and David supports this too. "I'll have two fathers," Michael says proudly. "One makes money, the other makes food." Tony is now not just a restaurant owner, but also an advisor, a big brother for the neighborhood. People tell him their problems, ask for advice. David has also started the Tony Project in his company. He gives scholarships to children from needy families, provides free meal service. "This project," says David, "helped me find my son and myself." Tony didn't just give us food, he taught us life. This story shows us that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can cause the biggest changes. Tony just gave food to a hungry child, but in the end, he changed 3 people's lives: Michael's, David's, and his own. Maybe the real wealth in life isn't money, but the size of our hearts. Money can run out, but love and kindness never end. In fact, they multiply, grow, spread. I hope this story inspires you. Share your own kindness stories in the comments. Until next time, take care of yourselves.